Maribeth, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome to Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. I'm Teddy Burriss of Burriss Consulting, and we're every Wednesday at noon, we get together and we try to have a little fun. Sometimes we bring the Easter Bunny with us, and sometimes we cut up. We always, by the way, we always show up live by 11:55. And the reason we show up live at 11:55 is it's what's called behind the scenes. You can join Randy and I and our special guest in the green room as we get ready. And you can ask us any question you want to ask us. Any question. There's no holds barred on questions. So thanks for joining us. Hey, my good friend, Randy Wooden. Randy, introduce yourself to the good people.
Absolutely. Well, when I'm not out dodging raindrops today here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, I am the director for Goodwill's Professional Center here in Winston-Salem, Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. We help job hunters, as all Goodwills do across the country. But I guess what kind of separates what I do is that my program is geared toward typically folks on the call today, professionals, however you want to define that. But whether you're employed and looking and burned out and frustrated and now's the time to look, you think, or maybe you're out of a job and are hot and heavy needing that next job. We're happy to help. We're free. And one of the things that we do, and one of the things that spurred this show on a year ago, is the fact that, hey, thanks now to technology, we can reach people remotely. And we thought, why not start a show aimed at helping job seekers, but also at helping professionals in general? So today's no exception. Teddy, I'll throw it back to you. I'm going to monitor that old chat box over here. If you have a question for Maribeth or a comment, I'll try to work those in as I see fit. And again, please let us know where it is that you're watching us from, because we always are curious. So thank you. Teddy, back to you.
And I just realized that Donald was calling me the Easter Bunny with my bright shirt. And dude, if you think this is great, check me out on Saturday or Sunday when I'm playing the Easter Bunny. So, hey, our special guest today is Maribeth Geraci. Now, here's how you pronounce Maribeth's last name, Geraci. It's German racing. Got you with that one, didn't I, Maribeth? German racing. So Maribeth Geraci, her business is Dress Code Style and True You Consulting. And Maribeth's going to come to join us today in a conversation about presentation, about presenting.
And right now, with all the transition we've been in, we thought it would be a good, timely topic.
I'm back. Are you with me? Am I with you?
Yeah, we hear you. I hear you.
Let me make sure I'm still live. Live stream is
Teddy,
still going on. I'm still recording.
You're good. I think you broke the internet, Teddy, with that shirt. I think the shirt.
Back live?
Yeah, we are. We're good. I totally hear you. I think it was your shirt. I think
I had to switch to the hotspot. My internet died on me.
If you broke the internet, Teddy. Anyway, so we've done the introduction. Maribeth has shared just briefly a little bit about her. So we're ready to kind of get into the crux of the show if you're ready. And if you're not, I'll stall for another 30 seconds. How does that sound?
I'm ready. I'm back live. That was pretty wild. I apologize for that little hiccup, folks.
All right.
So Maribeth, this is all about ourself, our authentic self, presenting our authentic self. And I often think that when I'm talking to somebody, all I got to do is use the right words and use them in an impactful way, and they're going to hear me and understand what I mean. But I don't think that's the case, is it?
No, it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, 80% of our communication is nonverbal, and that's something to really kind of sit with. So that means how you walk into a room, your whole body language, your whole energy, and how you're dressed, all that speaks volumes. Only 7%, usually everybody has a different, pie chart, but around 7% is words. So it's pretty impactful to learn how to do it and do it well.
And this is easy to do, right? I'm being facetious.
Well, it really is. It's something that people put on the back burner. They know in their careers that they need to learn it because they know how impactful it can be. But they tend to, be heads down in their work, and they, get dinged on it occasionally. in their reviews, and then sometimes it'll come front of mind. But I did travel the country, coaching in Fortune 1000 companies on this specific topic. And people are really interested. There's really in 15 years, I can say I've probably had 5 people that really pushed back and said, I don't care a thing about it, don't want to know about it. And the rest of the people are like, I knew I needed to know how to do this, and it's not even hard, but I needed somebody to tell me and walk me through the steps of being, having a good personal brand and making it impactful and memorable.
Yeah, Maribeth, give me one example of nonverbal communications that is something that we really need to practice and get good at.
Okay, I'll tell you that what they used to consider, and now we're in such a crazy time, office gold was a good smile, good eye contact, and a good handshake. Well, 2 of those 3 have been taken away from us. So I'd say sincere eye contact, whether you're on Zoom or whether you are meeting somebody behind a mask, is really important. And a lot of times people go, well, what's good eye contact? Maribeth, what does that mean? And you should look at somebody long enough to be able to tell what color eyes they have. And then you can look away because you don't want to look like you're a stalker or a car salesman. That is a way to, when you look at somebody in the eye, it releases oxytocin, which is a warmth hormone. It makes you feel like the other person is trustworthy, and it's just a powerful tool. Right now, we're out of those 3, we're down to 1. So I can't speak highly enough of eye contact.
I get it. But I'll tell you, one of the things I challenge myself as I'm masked up in public, I'm not out in public a lot, but when I am out in public with a mask, I still say to myself, smile when I say hi to people, because I think from here up, when I smile, it can be noticed. What do you think?
I totally agree. It's called mask sync. Well, there's a name for it, with smiling with your mask on. Because your eyes do go up, your cheekbones change, and people really can't tell that you're smiling behind the mask.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's very valuable, and you should do it because it does show in your eyes.
Yeah, I got it. So again, while we're having this conversation, if you have any questions, use the chat box, because Randy's only going to monitor the chat box, and bring up any question, any idea. So I get it, Maribeth. 80% of our communications is nonverbal. And by the way, I struggle with that because I still have to figure out a way to get my camera the right way to work best for me, because I want you to see my hands. And it used to be I had my hands down here, like, man, do you hear what I'm saying? I've got to get my hands up here. And one of the reasons why I built my office this way is that I could step back from the camera when I'm doing a presentation or whatever, so you can see me speaking to you. I think it's so important to do that. It sometimes freaks people out when I step away from the camera, but I think it's more impactful in my presentation. So talk about that. Some of the challenges of going virtual. What have you seen?
Well, that's a great point, because as a public speaker, I was always trained, to keep my hands down around my waist for my gesturing, and I'm Italian, so that was like really brutal for me. I had to really train. But now when you're on Zoom, you need, like you say, you need to lift them a little, and it changes the dynamic. But so you do need to do that when you're talking virtually. Yeah. Make your point, 1, 2. Use your hands as an enforcement of what you're saying. And the other thing is the virtual thing. We have just had the biggest work from home experiment that's ever been done in our world. I would say in our world. And so we're trying to learn what's never been done before. So number 1, I'd like to say to everybody out there to really give yourself a break, because we're all just figuring it out. And you've also got to look comfortable doing it. It's finding what's natural to you and not contrived, because that comes across too.
Yeah.
And you've got to think about so many other things. You never have to think about it in person, like your backdrop, and truly what you're wearing. What kind of interruptions, and just technical difficulty. That's going to happen. It's pouring down rain today, so you might have a blurb or 2, and how are you going to navigate that? And that can unnerve you. I mean, me being a technical immigrant, I will tell you that it unnerves me, but you've got to get comfortable with how you're going to navigate virtual working and really thinking about all the aspects of it, because we've certainly seen all the bloopers out there, and there are some really scary bloopers. You know, outtakes of people that have been, they've told on themselves saying, you don't want to be caught doing this. Oh boy, did that not work. You know?
Yeah, Randy, you got one, buddy?
Well, yeah, Teddy is wearing pants today, so the world is saved from any malfunction there. But yeah, talking about malfunction, we had with Maribeth the whole audio, the frozen video, and so she's on a phone and has video, and then Teddy had his internet go down, and so the show must go on despite the limited talents of your co-host over here. But I do have some one. Aaron has chatted in a question, and you kind of touched on this, but want to get a little finer point on that, and it's the whole thing about eye contact as it deals with the virtual meetings. And she says, can you talk about eye contact during these virtual meetings? I've heard it's important to look right at the camera when speaking, because that gives the impression to others that you're making eye contact, versus me looking at you right now, Maribeth. You're right over here
in that box.
What do you think is the best bet here?
You need to look up at your camera, because that centers you. Where often we're Zooming or in meetings, there's all these boxes, and they say that that's one of the things that it's very distracting to have that one person who's kind of following the boxes and bobbing their head the whole time. So it is very important to have that focus. So that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm with you. I need to look at Maribeth. I need to look at Randy, but I also need to look at the audience, and I try very purposely to switch back and forth. When I'm talking, I'm looking at the audience, but when Maribeth's talking or Randy's talking, I'm looking at them, so I can try to read your body language when you're talking to me. But again, when I'm talking, I want to try to remind myself to talk to the audience through the camera. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to. One of my good friends, Aaron, I can share this with you. One of my good friends said, take and put a picture of somebody, tape a picture of somebody on the back side of your camera so you're talking to that picture. Now, I'm not going to tell you the name of the drop-dead, gorgeous male movie star this lady said she taped to the back of her camera, because that's irrelevant. But put a picture of somebody back there might help you to speak to that picture, which is directly behind the camera, which could help you. So,
I got another follow-up on that the whole eye contact thing, and maybe you could critique Teddy's and my video here as well. But we had another question that speaks to the lighting, the camera position, that kind of a thing. So what do you have some parameters, guidelines for people where the camera level should be, the lighting, that sort of thing?
Well, your camera should always be a little higher than you, and that's why people have been buying all these contraptions. If you notice, there's been quite a new market developed for. I just discovered this new one that has these pop-up tent things that go behind you for different backdrop options. Like if you want it to look like a bookcase, you can have a bookcase. If you want it to be a certain color to match your ensemble or blend or whatever, you can have that. The same thing with all these different lifts. And if you notice on nightly news, I guess that'd be my biggest example, where they put them on your computer on a platform so it's a little bit higher than you, so that you're hitting and your visual is more real than obstructed or distorted.
Anything about lighting? Any tips on shadows? I mean, I know it's tough to make the face look presentable, but I'm doing what I can. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a darker background is usually better. If you got, like right now, I've got natural light coming in behind me, and it's not a great setup. So I would tell you the softer lighting, because the lighting of the cameras and everything is going to show you up better than to have you in too bright a light.
Yeah,
you know?
That's
but
good.
You can buy special lighting, special backdrops, special computer lifts, special cameras. I mean, you can really, depending on how perfect you want to look, but the biggest thing to me is that you don't want to, the distortion can be a distraction. And when you're trying to have a meeting virtually, the last thing you need is more distraction.
So I shouldn't have the telephone there off the hook.
I think that I'm going to have a future conversation with you about all those gadgets there in the back, those antique gadgets that I totally remember what they are.
Randy, I told you to do that before we go live, buddy.
Sorry.
Yes, that would not be, and that's something else I would bring up, that grooming virtually needs to be really paid attention to. A lot of people are coming, to their virtual meetings with their hair in a, what do they call those, clips, and then they have no makeup, they don't look like they're going to a work meeting. So just don't forget the details. Just because you're going on a computer does not mean you forget the details.
Jerry doesn't like my typewriter and my telephone. I don't know why. I mean, Jerry, I built my business on those devices, buddy. Ageism. He called it ageism, though. All right. So, Maribeth, good stuff. I mean, really, you don't need to overthink this, but we need to think this. That's my point.
Exactly.
I mean, nobody needs to put the money into their studio that I put in my money. I have thousands and thousands of dollars I put into my studio, and Randy didn't spend that money because I didn't give him permission to spend it in the budget. And he keeps hounding me about that. But you don't need to overthink it, but you do need to think about it. That's what I tell people on a regular basis. So,
to me, it's about just being prepared for the experience and not racing in with your hair on fire to try to look like you're going to a work meeting. You do need to think about it, but just because we're working this way doesn't mean you have to go out and buy every gadget. I don't want to suggest that either.
No. I mean, I have a very simple camera. I have very simple lighting that I put up. I bet you I spent $250 on lighting and camera, and that's all I need. I spent the most amount of time, redoing the room and painting it and putting hardwood floor down, and that was where the biggest effort was. But lighting and camera, no magic, but I did think it out. I mean, Randy spent probably $100 or so on camera, and you redid the backdrop behind you, and you changed the lighting in the window, and you put up that New England didn't make it to the Super Bowl team.
I did. Now, I bought a really nice camera. As a matter of fact, let me show you what I mean.
I like this camera.
I can zoom it in to where you can see every little wrinkle and gray whisker that you care to until you have to turn your head. But when you get decent lighting, you get decent camera angle, and I like what you said, it eliminates distractions. We're distracted enough whether we're driving. I try to drive with my knee while I'm texting and I'm eating and everything else. And I mean, it's tough to maintain all those things. So when you're face to face in a meeting, there are fewer distractions because people can see if you check your phone, people can see if you stare out the window. But when I'm on a virtual call, you can't necessarily see what all's going on. And so there are distractions galore going on. And I look down, you may be talking, I look at Teddy and he's picking his nose. And
or I'm tweeting with somebody.
Yeah.
Because I got all these devices out in front of me.
So minimize distractions. I think that's one of my takeaways that I'm hearing is let the focus be on the content of what you have to say, your body language, your tone of voice, and not allow for lighting or camera angle or cats crawling across the screen or anything to be distracting. If I'm hearing you right. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about attire and why.
Okay.
Why is attire important? I mean, this is we're working from home and soon, or maybe some of us are working from work at the office some days and home the other day. So we have that hybrid thing going on where, we're home and then we're in the office, maybe doing Zoom or, Microsoft Team or whatever. What about attire? I mean, Randy and I are joking. I am fully dressed. I am no shoes on. Okay, but I have socks. I have clean socks, clean pants, clean shirt. Okay, I dressed professionally because I was going to be meeting with Maribeth and I wanted to tell her I'm dressed appropriately. But Is that
That's right.
important?
I'm glad to see. Yeah, I'm glad you stepped up for me, Teddy.
Is
It
that
is
important?
and the hybrid thing. I'm in fact right now redoing all my programs that I do in corporations because I really think the hybrid working is going to be pretty much. I mean, I'm not a guru, but I think that based on what I research is going to be the future. So to work from home and then have to go into a board meeting after you've been working from home, you really got to think about what you're buying and think it through. So number one, I would tell you that there's so many high performance fabrics out there that comfort can be fabulous and crisp and presentable, where it doesn't have to be a sweatsuit. You know, we've come into this athleisure culture where we think that everything has to be a sweatsuit, and that's not the case. The designers and the companies have come up with performance fabrics that move with you, that are super comfortable and can still look very professional. And those are the things you need to find. And also, I'd tell you with this hybrid thing, you really need to think of the versatility of whatever you're purchasing. Because if it doesn't have multiple uses and a way to kind of move up and down in your wardrobe, if you will, you don't need to own it.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to think there aren't options for this new workplace attire. There's so many options. Again, it's just figuring out what fits your authentic self the best, that you're going to move into those two worlds the easiest, because everything's already so challenging. You don't need to make this another challenge, but you also don't need to put it on the back burner and not think it's important.
Yeah, I get it, Maribeth. I have a closet full of suits. I have a tie rack with probably 80 ties, and then a fortune invested in ties. None of those are relevant to me anymore. I mean, I stopped, and it was probably December 15th of 2010. I said, I will never wear a suit and tie. And the word never is a little blunt, but this is my attire. I mean, 24/7 in business and networking and on Zoom calls. This is my attire. I'm khakis and a nice looking polo almost every single time. And but this is for me. I mean, I don't work in a bank. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a consultant billing $500 an hour who they want to see them in suits and ties. So I think it's in real life and virtually. I agree with you, Maribeth. Present yourself as who you are in the best possible way for your role. Randy?
Yeah, we've had a few comments in the chat area, so I thought I'd throw one out here. We're talking about the clothing, and Jerry asks about speaking to virtual interview attire. Any differences there that we should be aware of as it comes to the interview process?
Good question. And one thing I want to respond to Teddy and just saying how he's more dressed down now, which is fine, because again, his role and what he does, that fits his personality, Sure. It fits his role. But I will tell you that a collar has power. So even if you're on a virtual thing, I would not wear a collar. Because again, I'll tell you, the power of a collar is the fact that it provides a frame to your face. It brings the eye up so that you are the center of attention. So virtually or not, a collar is important. So if I were interviewing personally online, I would never not have a collar. Yeah. And that's for men or women. I don't want you in even if it's your nicest T-shirt, and as they call in my world, fully fashioned, meaning it's not a Hanes, just undershirt. That's still not what I would ever interview in unless I was interviewing at Facebook or Google or something like that, some tech firm. Other than that, I would definitely put on a collar, whether it's a polo collar or whether it's a button-down collar or my collar, which is a fly collar.
Yeah. All right, so let me dig a little deeper on this thing with the virtual interview. Clothing is clothing, meaning if you want to be taken more seriously, for example, then you don't wear a T-shirt, and then you get into the levels of professional, business casual, that kind of a thing. Can you speak to interviewing in general, as far as the old adage we've heard, you dress for the job that you want next, or one level above, that kind of a thing? How real is that? I think we're
It is still very real, and I'll tell you why it's real. There are 5 generations in the workforce right now. So you don't know who you're going to be interviewing with, and you don't know because you don't know that. Do you really know their lens? So I would always err, still to this day, I would err on the side of being a little bit more put together than more relaxed.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will tell you, there's been so many studies that I've been just obsessed with reading during all this transition and craziness. And it says, one of the recent ones I read said 9 out of 10 business people still feel like when they put on their work clothes that their whole mindset of I'm going to work, it kind of changes their channel and gives them a little bit more gravitas as far as this is my role and this is where I'm going. And it helps them have a better day. So that's recent. That's not 10 years ago. That was literally an article I read last week.
I wonder about overdressing too. Does that send maybe a different signal, that whatever that different signal might be, by severely overdressing with a suit and tie when you're interviewing at Google, for example, or like you said, where maybe a T-shirt might be more appropriate?
Well, I think that it's just, as speakers, we know this, know your audience.
Yeah.
And you really do need to dress to your audience, but not to the point that it doesn't look like you care. And that's the slippery slope of this casual thing, is that it's subjective, and most of us make more errors there. Whereas if we're given a formula, and I can't tell you how many people I coach that say they miss suits, because it was like animals. They could, in the morning, they're like, I don't have to make any, it's like boom, 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 I'm out the door, made it easier, right? So just remember, if you're too relaxed, no matter what the culture, you know, the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. It looks too familiar, too relaxed, like, yeah, man, I'm going in for this interview, and you're just like too cool for school. That's not going to fly, that's not going to land well, even in the most casual arenas. And as far as dressing up too much, I do think that can happen, and they call it now, they call it the suit in the room. So it is almost like a little bit of a negative. So
hey,
you
Teddy,
can still wear a jacket, because I'm all about a jacket, because again, there can be very comfortable a jacket, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to suit up. But I will tell you, there is a huge majority of professionals that say suiting up was easy compared to what it is now.
Hey, Teddy, I'm going to take about a 30-second break. I've got to run down the hall here, and I will be right back. So you got it, and you got the break coming up anyway.
Got it, man. Got it. So, all right. Hey, it's 12:30. Thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. It's been a really wild technical morning this morning, and so we're sorry for all the little hiccups that have happened. But you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest today is Maribeth Geraci, and the conversation is all about designing, and delivering your personal brand in 2021. And I like that title you came up with, Maribeth, because it really does. The defining part means I've got to think about this. The designing part means I got to make choices in the way I want to present myself so that I can do it, and then so I can deliver. And the deliver part is purposefully presenting yourself in the way that you designed it and the way you put yourself together. It really is a great conversation. So Randy, you back?
Yeah, I am. And you know, lest people think I had to run to the restroom, that's not the case. I don't know where you guys are exactly geographically, but it is pouring rain. And I left a door open outside my bedroom. And I'm in the other end of my man cave here, and it sounds like the rain is pouring in my house. So I'm only imagining what it's going to look like half an hour from now. That's why I stepped away. And it is just coming down. And I'm glad I went and checked it, because
Good.
Anyway,
I'm
technical difficulties on my end, but there you go.
It's been a wild day, man. I don't think we've had this much chaos on any other show, Randy.
I mean, it sounded like I had the window open, and I'm hearing this rain coming out. I'm like, holy cow, it must be raining pretty hard out there. And I thought, wait a minute, why am I hearing it like that? And then I remembered I left my door wide open because it was nice and cool this morning. So anyway, crisis averted.
Cool.
Carry on.
Good stuff. All right, Maribeth, thank you very much for joining us today. Let's talk about a few more tips that we talked about earlier that I think are important to share with people. And that is, how about we talked about it a little bit. You just did the slippery slope of casual dressing. I'll give you an example. I know a business owner who is a business coach, and he coaches executives in multi-million-dollar businesses. 100, 200 billion dollar industries. That's what his goal is to do. And I believe he does some of that work. Every time I see him, Maribeth, he's in sneakers, sweatpants, and a sweatshirt.
Okay, and what I have to say to that is what I say when I coach around the country. Not everybody's Mark Zuckerberg. And there's actually a whole phenomenon called the Zuckerberg Effect, where people feel very comfortable saying, I'm so good at what I do, I can show up like that. And obviously this man has a terrific job and is very well thought of. I'm just going to speak from my personal experience. I think it reads arrogant.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I think from my perspective, I'm with you. I want to dress so that my target audience, my ideal client, my ideal employer, if I was looking for a job, I want to dress in a way that I showed them that I cared. I think you use these words. I cared enough to show up the best I could.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an outward.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say it's an outward uniform. The uniform that we wear, it's a conscious decision. And just as you see people dress in overly provocative ways, you see them dressed in ways that are maybe very, very overly casual. You see others that, they dress in a bow tie to, go to Walmart. I mean, it's just.
But it's an artful expression of who we are.
You bet.
Not to get real philosophical, but it truly is. And you said outward armor, and that seems harsh, like it's an art, but it's also it's artistic expression. In fact, I've read another article recently about how fashion is one of the most democratic things we do because we get to do it our way. You know what I mean? It's individual. It's our expression, and it's really a wonderful thing in that regard. And if we embrace this whole personal packaging, personal branding, and not as a have to I think it's a wonderful opportunity to be told I get to design my own package. Yeah. You know what I mean? I get to say what color I want it to be, where I want it on the shelf, what size and shape or colors it wants to wear. I mean, I think that's empowering.
Yeah. What about tattoos, piercings, and a lot of the body alterations that we're seeing now that are maybe more commonplace than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Very good question, and that comes up a lot when I'm interviewed. I would tell you when I started my coaching practice 15 years ago, it was, we don't care what you do, we just don't want to see it, right? Now, the last rule of thumb that I got from companies is that don't let it be a distraction. It's just like you don't want something to walk into the room before you do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like before you're, like I said, 80% is nonverbal. So is that how you want to be remembered, or is it your skill set? And nobody's read your resume yet. So you've only got what you walk into the room with. And if what you're doing, again, self-expression, authenticity, if those things matter to you, and culturally, a lot of times it's part of someone's culture. And it's not, you don't want to not do it, but you don't want to overdo it. So if you've got tattoos and you've got sleeves and whatever, maybe you just don't show all of it, but maybe your favorite one that's something that would maybe be a conversation starter.
Wait a minute.
The rule of thumb is don't let it be a distraction. Don't let it be a distraction.
If my favorite tattoo is in a location that I don't normally show, I probably shouldn't show it, right?
That's good, Teddy. Yes, indeed. I would pick another one. You have to go to second or third. You'd have to go to second or third prize for that.
I'm with it. I have tattoos. I have friends that have tattoos. And so, but for me, in my personal and professional brand, a face tattoo, you know, even a lower arm tattoos are not going to work for Teddy Burriss. Again, in my personal and my professional brand. But then again, that's just for me. It's not for everybody. So, Randy, you got anything coming up?
Yeah, this we can work Don's question in here. Don's held a number of hats over the years, and consultant, outplacement, career coach, leader, mentor. He's a great guy. And
has he been a special guest?
He has.
Okay. Oh, he had.
He was back on our Veterans Day show. And so one of the challenges, and this is not so much, it may be tied into appearance and such, but in today, you know, you need a lot of income streams, revenue streams. And for a guy who has not been what I'll call a one-trick pony, who's been constantly in this one job his entire career, where he's easily defined, how does he become a bit of a chameleon when people say things like, well, what is it you do? And how can he present himself to different audiences, I suppose? Is that a dress thing? How does he explain that he is more than just that one type of work or one type of worker? Is that a fair way to word that, Don?
Yes, that definitely can be done. In fact, whenever I do my coaching, I tell everyone to pick 3 words of how they want to be perceived when they walk into a room before they open their mouth. And and that's part of that defining piece, Teddy, that we were talking about. So when they pick those words, they're like, how can you dress for that? So sometimes it is dress, and sometimes it's an attitude and a how you carry yourself in your body language. If you wear multiple hats and have different skill sets, then I'd say you stay neutral with a flair. If you know what I mean? And that's really being a chameleon. You know that what you're wearing is appropriate for many different arenas, but you got to do something that's a little bit unique that lets them know that you're a visionary and out of the box. And that's why you like doing all those different things, because you don't want to be put in one box to say this is all I do.
Yeah.
Does that help or not? I
was going to offer, Maribeth, in the context, Don uses the phrase the background. So, you know, I've got background. I don't always use backgrounds because I built my room so that it presents me the way I want to be presented. But I do have backgrounds, and sometimes I use backgrounds. I won't use this bar scene background other than when I'm playing around. I may use this San Francisco background or the jungle background. Sometimes I'll use the the beach scene. And if I'm hanging out with my buddies at Goodwill, I'll use that one. But it's all about choosing the appropriate background for the audience you're talking with. It's all good, in my opinion, to let your humorous, fun, lighthearted nature show where relevant and appropriate.
Yeah, and that's actually was one of the questions that was posed earlier. It was, okay, is it appropriate to have your personality come out by the type of background that you select, or should you just try to avoid that and just focus like I have, which is basically just a solid, there's no distraction behind me. Mm-hmm. If I had a picture of the New England Patriots and their multiple Super Bowl rings, then that might be my personality. Mm-hmm. But yet, if I'm talking to a Steelers fan or a Jets fan, you see where I'm going with this, and you can create an alienation kind of situation unknowingly.
You
so
can.
I think,
well, in some regards, I think if we're speaking, because we're jumping, if we're speaking just virtually, your bag's up right. That Saints fan could get put off by the Steelers fan. Or it could be an icebreaker. You can look at it another way. It can be an icebreaker if you're just meeting a new client for the first time. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that it can always be a negative. It's just you really got to know and dig a little deeper, especially virtually, on who is showing up that day, who is your audience, who is this person, what role are they, and what do they mean to you, and what are you trying to accomplish in the conversation.
Yeah.
You see? Good point. But I do want to emphasize that there is what I call the neutral zone of dressing, that you can add things that are simple for different audiences without reinventing the wheel for feeling like, oh my God, this is so confusing, I can't even keep up. You don't want to go there. You can go to neutral zone and add, I say, seasoning to your mix. When I think of seasoning a dish, you can do that for your different arenas.
So,
Does that help?
tell me, let's I'm gonna ask this question. I would love to hear you to reiterate, maybe in different words. Why does this all matter? I mean, you could be in a public space, you know, a professional environment, and you might run into some dude named Harry who's in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Why? Big statement. Why does this matter?
Okay, well, you're asking somebody that has a real passion about this. To me, it's the number one way we show self-care is how we show up. And if we don't care, then that shows up.
Yeah.
And I don't.
It does.
And there's a thing that I speak about in my seminars that there's a lot of research being done on in big-time universities called enclosed cognition. And I've written a good bit about it during this pandemic because it's proven, it has been proven scientifically that your mood changes based on what you wear.
Yeah.
So us working from home with all the heaviness and all the juggling and all the things, and then us dragging ourselves to the computer for those meetings looking like we just rolled out of bed has done nothing for our mental health or at all. And so doing the whole showing up and why does it still matter, to me, we need to hit a reset button. And we've been living through hell, to be perfectly honest. And I think that reset button is an opportunity to say it does still matter. Human contact still matters. My clients still matter. You know, all that stuff. And it shows respect. It just, to me, for yourself, first and foremost, but also for others that you care about.
You just used two words that really nailed it for me, Maribeth. Thank you very much. Self-care and respect for one's self.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're in charge of creating that visual. And that visual is your personal brand. And you're in charge of it. So it's not trying to make you a widget. It's letting who you are show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's a gift. If you learn how to do it, it's a powerful tool in your toolbox, and it truly is a gift that you give to be memorable and impactful in whatever role you play.
Yeah, I like that. Memorable and impactful. All right, here's another one. Here's the last question that came to mind.
Okay.
Before we wrap this conversation up. And again, Maribeth, thank you very much. This has been very good. Very useful. And by the way, we had fun doing it, so thank you.
Okay.
What do you think? So get your crystal ball. By the way, Maribeth, you may not know this, but I actually have a working crystal ball. Here's my working crystal ball. Okay? It works. By the way, it's also broke. It broke the other day, so it's not working so well. But get your crystal ball out and share with us, what do you think moving forward, post-pandemic crisis, which might mean it's not over, but it's becoming over. What do you think workwear looks like as we move forward? How do you think we will be presenting ourselves in that attire and presentation post-pandemic?
I think that it will be more relaxed. But I think that those people that are just chomping at the bit to get dressed up again will do it with a vengeance.
Yeah.
All my fashion publications and forecasters say that there'll be a balance. Those people, I talk people through and I coach them about what their style personality is. Yeah. And those that were already naturals, which means comfort at all costs, they're in heaven. They've always needed to make a little extra effort, but now to transition back to the workplace, they're going to have to really think harder about it. But other people that really always enjoyed, like I said, putting on their workwear and putting on that hat when they went to work, you know, that role and that outfit, they're going to want to go back to it. They truly are. They how many versions, in fact, I tease the designers that I work with and say, how many versions of a sweatsuit can there really actually be? You know, but they're really coming, I mean, they've really taken it to the nth degree. But my point is that on the other side of this pandemic, I think people will land pretty much where they were before the pandemic as far as what they like to wear. There'll be some more permission and flexibility than there has been in some industries. But the biggest thing that I love is the evolution of the fabrications, that I don't care if you're suited up. I mean, in my retail store right now, I've got a suit a working suit that feels like you're in an athleisure suit, because it's made out of material that is so darn stretchy and comfortable, you'd never know the difference. So it just depends on what you love. You'll go back to what you love.
Yeah. Hey, remind us, Randy, go ahead, buddy.
It's going to say, Mary Beth, I'm glad you're here and can give us tips, because I put on so much weight that when I do have to dress up again, I'm going to have to buy a new outfit anyway. So I need to know what's hip and where I need to be and what I need to plan for. So I better be taking better notes. I'll have to watch this show again, because I need to know what I need to buy. So there, just throwing it out there.
My last thing to say would be, get help if you need it. If you need help, go get it, and we're happy to help if we can.
In multiple areas, I tell you. But we'll muddle through this. But yeah, I'm with you. I probably purchased 3 or 4, 5, 6 pair of sweats and shorts and sweatshirts, and I still have. And I'm joking about the weight gain a little, but I still have plenty of shirts. And you know what? I put a shirt on for this show, because not just this show, but for the show in general, because I want to project some level of at least business casual. And I think those are things that are within our control, meaning how we dress. So I'll leave that alone for now. But Teddy, let me throw it back to you. And
Randy, I applaud you for dressing appropriately, even though I know you still wear your fuzzy slippers.
The bunny ears. It's Easter time, so now they're in style. So they're ready to go.
Mary Beth, wrap this up for me in 2 or 3 bullet points that you think are really impactful, that the audience needs to take away from this. 2 or 3 bullet points, please.
I would say, number 1, take care of yourself, and this is part of it, how you show up. I'd say you are your product, so pay attention to your packaging. Make it what you want it to be, but pay attention to it. And then what I just said, get help if you need it. A lot of people don't think that there are people out there that can help them through this and navigating their personal brand strategy. And through you consulting is what we do, and there are people that know about work cultures and can help.
Yeah. And this is Maribeth Geraci. She's in Greensboro. Her business is dresscodestyle.us. I'll drop that on the chat. This is where her business is. And get help if you need it. I like that statement. So good stuff. Maribeth, again, sorry for all the technical conflicts that we had today. Lordy, they were all stacked up. But thank you very much for coming on with us. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Randy, do you have a story for our guests, for our audience?
You know, I could make one up, but I actually have one. I kind of relate a little bit of it on Monday. Maribeth, thank you, by the way. And a lot of what you said, I think as we hear it, we go, that makes sense. I wish I thought of that. Gee, that's a great reminder. But you know what? We're human and we forget things. And so always to have a reminder of what's appropriate and how we can best position ourselves non-verbally. And I can tell you from experience with working with clients, too many of them get so focused on saying, man, I need a good resume. and wow, if you could only help me answer these interview questions, I know I could ace the interview, but yet they don't focus at all on how they come across. And to them, that's sort of just who they are. And they're so busy trying to fill in those words versus tone of voice, their appearance, that kind of thing. And so while nobody's perfect, Teddy's pretty close. I mean, look at the guy, right?
A lot of work goes into this.
Look at that. But I always fall back on saying, control what you can control. There's a lot in life you can't control. There's a lot of things out there. COVID's a good example. A lot of good people got flushed down the toilet when COVID hit. Jobs were lost by the millions throughout the country. but control what you can. And that's your time, your attitude, and the time you spend preparing how you want to appear to your audience. So I really like what you said about knowing your audience.
Yeah.
And my audience typically are those who are professionals. And so I think for them, when they're receiving assistance from someone at the professional center, I think their expectation is that that person should be dressed for that role.
Mhm.
And I also see the same thing back when we used to meet in person. When I see somebody who took the time, not necessarily in a suit and tie to come in, but to dress in at least a business casual versus somebody who shows up late with flip-flops and a t-shirt
And
a hoodie or whatever. And yeah, okay, they have a degree and they're quote unquote a professional, but that shows to me a bit of a lack of respect for my time and my professionalism. And so we wear a uniform, and whether it's our clothing, it's our tone of voice, it's our body language, there's more to it than simply the words and the words on a page. So again, keep a lot of that in mind. If you're a job hunter, how you are perceived by others is their reality. You may be a great guy, but if you come across as somebody who's distant and non-attentive, doesn't seem to care, why should they care about you? So here again, control what you can. And I love what you had so many good things. You talked about self-care, respecting yourself and others, and just a whole host of things. So I'll throw it back to Teddy, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our show next week, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's going to be really special. So hang tight. Listen to my quick little story, because you want to know who our guests are for next week. You're going to want to know about this. It's a very special event. Hey, here's my story. Again, Maribeth, thank you very much. You reminded me about a term I use all the time called publicly present. You need to look at yourself. You need to try to be as publicly present as you can. And then in life, that often means, go out in public and meet people and events. But we're not doing that as much anymore. So we're doing things like using Zoom and GoToMeeting and WebEx, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not the only place that we present ourselves. We also present ourselves on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Quora, on LinkedIn, on Tinder. Ignore the Tinder stuff. But we present, I know, buddy, I canceled the account. We present ourselves on social media. So look and see how you show up there. Are you always on Instagram with some kind of grungy picture? Or do you every now and then show, yourself in a professional way? Look at your Facebook pictures. How are you presenting yourself on Facebook? Is every picture you drinking, or every picture you doing something totally bizarre, like my previously naked in public pictures I used to have? I deleted them, Randy. You told me to, I deleted them.
You're on it, buddy.
You got to think about how you show up publicly on social media as well, because those images stick. They don't go away. Once someone sees you doing that, I'll never forget, I had an executive that I was doing work with, and I found him on Facebook, and then I found him on LinkedIn, and he was using the same profile picture on Facebook and LinkedIn, and there was a picture of him drinking some beer. And that was my visual, this executive, drinking beer. Now, it turned out that's not all he is. He's way more than that. Think about how you show up publicly present in real life, on Zoom calls, and on social media. Yeah. So, all right, folks, here we go. Next week is our anniversary show. And Randy, I've only had one other anniversary, with one other person, and now I've got an anniversary with you. Pretty impactful, dude.
I feel for you, bro. You feel for me. Yeah. I feel for you. We'll get through this together.
Yeah.
My buddy.
Next week is our anniversary show. Yeah. It's going to be an hour and a half. And how are we going to make an hour and a half work for you? The way we're going to make an hour and a half work for you is Randy and I are going to take turns reading, some old book that we found. No, we're bringing in 10 special guests. Here's who's going to be on the show next week. We're going to have Lida Citrone. Lida is all about branding. We're going to have Kristen Zabo. Kristen's all about interviewing and find your job joy. Really cool model she has. We'll have Linda Spiegel. Linda's all about ideas about resumes that you've never thought about before that are factorially better than the way we have been taught to write resumes. We're going to have Noel DeBona. Noel's going to come in and he's going to join us. He's the guy who's all about self-assessments, which is a powerful way to move us forward. We're going to have David Burden. David is an executive recruiter. He's going to come in and we're going to have lots of conversations, but I want you to know what their mastery is. David's all about, executive recruiting and presenting yourself to executive recruiters. We're going to have Mr. Daniel Lobb, a personal friend of mine who's right over the hill out here in Davie County, North Carolina. Daniel Lobb's all about inspiration.
Did he have to bribe you to get on this show, Teddy? Lobb, I mean, come on.
No, I told him, he said, you're going to be on the show, I won't knock on your door and ask to fly in your plane. No, but Daniel's right down the road. He's a good guy. He's all about inspiration.
He better not make himself funnier than we are, Teddy. That's the curse, because he's a funny guy, I tell you. And if he gets out of line, we're gonna have to sit on him. All right, just
you and I are screwed then. Hey, check out who else is coming. Mitch Miles. Mitch, another friend of mine. He plays in my sandbox. Mitch is the LinkedIn guru. He's going to be here. He's a fun guy as well. Then let's see, she's on here today. We have Cindy Martin. Cindy's all about etiquette and professionalism, and and I know I screwed up if I get a text message from Cindy while we're live. I know I did something wrong, and I'm grateful that she calls me out and reminds me to be better. Hey, we're going to have Mr. Val Boston. He's all about networking. Val's going to join us. And our 10th special guest is Dr. Lexi Lane. She's all about physical health and taking care of, I love the words that Maribeth used, self-care. All of these folks are going to join us. They're not going to have deep dive conversations about their topics. They're going to hit a point or two. We're going to ask questions. It's going to be a fun hour and a half. So join us next week, same time, same channel. Invite your friends. I can promise you we will laugh, we will cut up, we will celebrate a year with you, and with 10 of our, and how many were there, Randy? We had 10 out of 58 special guests. So
yeah, and we had actually, and it became difficult. We had way more than 10 of our past guests that had asked to be a part of the show, and while we wish we could have everybody back, and we just had, at some point, we had to kind of narrow this thing down. And so it is what it is. But yeah, we're going to reminisce a little bit too, and look back at how COVID has changed things. And we won't spend a ton of time on that, but the whole genesis of this show was, all right, COVID sent everybody home. That's impacted our business. And as a result, look what we did, what we started, and we're still doing it. So we'll find out from these guests what has really impacted their lives business-wise over the last year with COVID, and have some laughs. And I was joking about Daniel. Daniel's a great guy. He is funny as all get out. And we got some other real good characters coming in here. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We always have fun. It's informative. So again, if you're so inclined, we hope you'll join us for 90 minutes next week on April 7th at 12 noon Eastern time, right here. Teddy, I think we're about done.
And Jerry asked a question I can't answer. Jerry, reach out to me or Randy on LinkedIn, and we'll help you with some of those other questions. And we are very grateful that you all joined us. Very grateful for Maribeth to be our special guest for today, and grateful that we got through this tumultuous technology today. Good Lordy. Hey, everybody, have a great week. We'll see you later on.
All right. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye, Maribeth.
Bye.